An article published on the website of Russian daily La Gazebo compares the performance of the battle against the epidemic in China and the United States. The article begins by pointing out that China has done the impossible. After a period of global xenophobia, China's popularity is suddenly rising around the world. The reason is that Beijing is providing all the necessary assistance to countries suffering from the epidemic. Instead, America is cutting itself off from the rest of the world and behaving in an increasingly unseemly way. Trump declared himself a wartime president, the article said. He announced a series of large-scale anti-epidemic measures, but all of them concerned only his own citizens. At the same time, China has recently begun to provide large-scale aid to other affected countries. Alexei Kuprianov, a researcher at the Institute of World Economics and International Relations, Russian Academy of Sciences, said, "At first, some countries had a prejudice against the Chinese, but now this is changing. China is fulfilling its responsibilities as a great power. The U.S. move doesn't look very respectable." Other analysts also said the lack of U.S. action and the White House's focus on domestic policy gave China a chance to show its responsibilities as a major country. According to the article, Trump's speech and tweets caused panic and anger among the public. In the 2 months while China is in a battle against the disease, the Trump administration has turned a blind eye to a looming public health disaster and missed its best chance to contain the spread of novel coronavirus, which has spiraled out of control due to early missteps. The U.S. state and private sectors are still in poor preparation of production and supply of epidemic prevention materials. Unable to explain the country's plight to the public, or to take responsibility for the consequences of their own failings, politicians are using the smear campaign as a way of deflecting domestic anger. They are trying to use China as a scapegoat by collecting Western opinion and attacking China, fabricating claims that China is hiding data on infections and deaths, exaggerating quality disputes over some Chinese medical products exported to the West, discrediting Chinese diplomacy, and inciting accountability. Compared with China's efforts to help the world fight the epidemic, the politicians' sleaze looks ugly. In an interview with CNN on March 29, Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong talked about the war of public opinion between China and the U.S. over the outbreak, and the U.S. leadership in the crisis. He said, "In the past decades of similar cases, the world has benefited from America's leadership, but if the United States changes its behavior patterns, countries will find another way out. It is clear that the groundless accusations made by the U.S. against China will not help the world solve the problem as soon as possible. It is a great pity that the United States cannot devote its energy to defending against this crisis for all mankind," Lee added. Similarly, an article on the website of Spanish newspaper El País on March 22 pointed out that the number of new cases in mainland China is currently 0, while the number of infections in Europe and the United States is soaring. The stark contrast between Chinese attitude towards foreign aid and nationalist rhetoric in Washington could make China the eventual winner, the report said. What matters is who can contain the virus and who can rebuild the economy first, the expert said. Whoever does better in these areas will win.